everyone, and welcome to the Able Voices podcast. I'm Dr. Rhoda Bernard, founding managing director of the Berklee Institute for Arts Education and Special Needs, and I am proud to present this podcast featuring disabled artists and arts educators. We are inviting artists with disabilities to be guest hosts for the Able Voices podcast. The guest host for today's episode is jazz pianist and composer Matt Savage. Matt is on the autism spectrum. He has had a professional career since childhood as a jazz musician, bandleader, and composer. He has played with some of the biggest names in jazz, including Chick Corea, the Ellington All-Stars, Chaka Khan, Wynton Marsalis, and many, many more. He has recorded more than a dozen albums. Matt teaches at colleges in Boston and New Hampshire. He gives private piano lessons, and he gives master classes in English and Spanish. I hope you enjoy this episode, hosted by Matt Savage.
Hello, and welcome to Able Voices Episode 2. My name is Matt Savage. I'm a pianist and composer and college educator, and I was the interviewee on episode 1, and now I'm going to be the interviewer for episode 2. And this week we are featuring the amazing trumpeter Wayne Pearcy, a frequent collaborator of mine. And he's an excellent performer and composer, and in both the jazz and classical idioms. And he's a fellow alumnus of Berklee College of Music. And he's accomplished all of this despite being blind from birth. So very excited to have him in the virtual studio with all of us all together. And it's wonderful to see you again, Wayne. How are you doing?
Doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me. And it was a pleasure to play with you last night.
Yes, it was. We played last night at the Lily Pad in Cambridge, one of our favorite jazz clubs.
Yep. All good stuff. We played some originals and had a blast. It was a great show.
Yes, we did. It was it was both Wayne's band with me on piano and my band. But we'll get to some of those projects in a few minutes. But the first thing I wanted to ask you, Wayne, was when did you first become interested in the trumpet?
I was in 6th grade. Well, I guess I got tested on band instruments, when I was in 5th grade. That was kind of the elementary school sort of thing. And I remember going to the the middle school, and the band director handed me a tuba. Couldn't make a sound on that. And they handed me a trombone. Couldn't make a sound on that. A flute. Couldn't make a sound on that. Finally, they handed me a trumpet. I could sort of squeak out a little bit on that. And then they handed me a cornet. And that's what I was able to make the sound on the easiest. So I started playing, when I first started playing, I actually was playing a cornet for about the first 3 months or so. And then my dad in 6th grade bought me a trumpet in, late November, early December of my 6th grade year. So yeah, that was cool. That's how I got started.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yep.
Or maybe the cornet and trumpet were just easier to carry.
Yeah. Well, for a little guy, I mean, a cornet is it's wrapped up a little smaller. So even though it's in the same key, it's the same length of tubing, it's a little easier for a younger person to fill up the instrument with air if they're not used to that. And actually, I remember when I did graduate to trumpet that I did have a little bit of an issue there, actually getting a sound that was sustainable. That took about a week or so of getting used to. And then once I did that, then it was fine.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So my next question for you is, how does learning music as a blind student differ for you? Do you think it makes a big difference in everyday learning when it comes to music?
Definitely. For starters, blind musicians don't have the same level of access to music that sighted students would have access to. So, a sighted student can go, to a music store and just pick out anything they want, or they can go to a library and pick out pick out any sort of score, any sort of method book, anything like that they want. For us, we're limited to either learning music by ear, which is primarily what I do, or using Braille music. The caveat with Braille music is that it's very hard to learn. It's not very intuitive. It's hard to get. So if you're looking for new music, you have to oftentimes pay a transcriber. Could be $100+ it could be $200+ to get access to the music, and then you have to wait for 3 or 4 weeks for a transcriber to turn that piece around for you. And so unless you're like a classical soloist, and you don't have to worry about being on in the operating at the same pace with any sort of peers, then Braille music could be a viable solution. But if you're in a situation where you've got ensembles of various types that you're playing with, or if you are asked to play something last minute or something like that, you really have to use your ears to make those to make those gigs happen for yourself. And being a trumpet player, even though my ambition is to be a soloist, and I've done that a lot, you still end up collaborating with other composers, other players, other sections. So you really have to be able to be flexible, and you've got to be able to learn things quickly. I remember a couple of times, even as a student at Berklee, where um, students would ask me to play on film scoring projects or something like that very last minute, and they would send me mock-ups of pieces 3 days or 4 days ahead of time, and I would have to just stay up all night, or do whatever I had to do to make sure I had those parts memorized. And that's the other thing about Braille music, is that you can't read and play at the same time, so you have to memorize your music anyway. So imagine having to wait 3 or 4 weeks to get a piece transcribed, and then having to still, read it and then go through that memorization process. It can be very tedious and cumbersome. That being said, I think Braille music is a good way for a blind student to understand music notation, and I think it's a good way of getting a basic grasp on that. And if you decide to use Braille and your ears together, then that's great. If you decide that you're solely a Braille music guy, and you know exactly what kind of situations you're going to put yourself in, then if that's what you want to do, then that's great as well. It's really what's going to work for you the best. For me, it works much better to learn most everything by ear.
Yeah, it's two different perspectives on learning, definitely. So in brief, how did you first discover jazz music? And also, when did you first start looking into historical classical trumpet and cornet performance?
Oh man. So when I was in middle school, we had to do the beginning band first. And then once we got to 7th grade, then we were able to do the jazz stuff and concert band together. And I was just sort of a natural improviser. My dad was a guitar player, was a country and bluegrass kind of guitar player. And so he he had me playing, as early as I can remember. He had me trying to jam on blues in the key of E, which is hilarious because that key doesn't work very well, especially for a young guy trying to get his hands around the trumpet and the fingerings and all of that stuff. And so when I told Dad that we should play things in B flat, he would give me a hard time about it. He would be like, B flat, that's horrible. Like, why would you want to play in B flat? I'm like, because that's what's going to work better for my instrument. But oh no, Dad wasn't willing to bend with that. So we had to play in E. Uh, so when I was in 7th grade, I started taking the jazz band, and I remember, they taught us the blues scale. They taught us how to swing. And then we played this little tune called Louie Louie, and we had a little spot to play solos, and they were like, who wants to take a solo? And I was like, pick me, pick me, pick me. I was like super excited. So they were like, okay, Wayne, you get to take a solo. So that was my first introduction to jazz, was middle school big band. And that's really, and later that year I progressed further, and I did all city jazz, and really kind of took to it like a duck in water. And as far as the historical performance goes, I guess I'll briefly say that while I was a student, especially in high school, I was, playing both classical and jazz together, because that's what, kind of was expected. If you were going to do the jazz band in high school, you were also going to do the concert band. And if you did concert band, you were, of course, going to do solo and ensemble. So I did all of that stuff, and never really thought anything of it. I didn't realize that until college that people didn't play classical music in a lot of respects. I mean, that's just always been a part of who I am. So when I got to Berklee, I did my first semester stuff, and then I did a recital that semester playing both styles. And then second semester, I was in the orchestra. And a good friend of mine, Tom Brennan, that we were buddies at school. He was telling me about his Baroque trumpet teacher that he had in Connecticut. And I was kind of intrigued. I was like, wait, Baroque trumpet? What are you what are you talking about? And he was like, well, let me show you. And so we were up in his dorm one night, and we were just hanging out, and he showed me these historically informed recordings of the Bach Brandenburg Concerto number 2. And I had only really heard Wynton Marsalis's version of it, with a big string section. It was the London English Chamber Orchestra. Sorry. Yeah. English Chamber Orchestra. And, big string section. Wynton's playing this piece on his piccolo trumpet, because that's what modern guys do when they play Baroque.
That's an octave higher than the standard one.
Right. Yep. It's an octave higher. And the piccolo trumpet is a very bright and cutting instrument, and it's meant to cut through the back row of an orchestra and cut through all the strings. That's what it's meant to do. But it's also the way that modern trumpet players have access to Baroque literature. So I'd only been used to hearing Bach Brandenburg concertos played that way, through a modern lens, with modern instruments, modern orchestras. And when I heard this recording of Tom's Baroque trumpet teacher, I was just floored. I don't really know how else to describe it to you. I was just floored by what I heard. The ensemble was much smaller, only about 15 to 20 musicians at the most. Everybody was playing these instruments that, while they sounded like the instruments that I knew, they sounded just a little bit different and a little bit softer and warmer. Really, they had a warmth to them that really invited you into the sound and made you want to ask for more and search for what was going on. The other thing about it was the trumpet specifically was noticeably softer and noticeably warmer. And I just loved how big the sound was. It was such a different thing than what I had heard. I thought the sound was gentle. I thought it was friendly. I really enjoyed it. And also the pitch was lower. And I was like, what is going on with this pitch level? I thought this is supposed to be an F. And Tom was like, well, this is a Baroque pitch. This is A415. And so that just really opened up my world to starting to understand about historical performance practice.
Yeah.
And what temperaments were. I mean, this has been a several year journey at this point.
Yeah.
But
also the perils of having perfect pitch.
Yes. I mean, it took me years, guys. It took me years to be able to think in Baroque pitch. So every time I was hearing, a trumpet concerto, something like Telemann or something like that in D, I was thinking D flat. all the time, because when I would listen to these historical recordings, Baroque pitch, or what we agree on as being Baroque pitch, that's not, it's kind of arbitrary, but um, it was a half step lower. And so that really it took a very long time for me to train my brain to be able to think in 415. And I can think in 415 pretty easily, but I have to sometimes still think about it for a minute
Yeah.
and not call the notes different things. So
Sure.
anyway, that's how I got started with historical performance. And the cornet. You asked about the cornet. That came much later. First, that started with me, taking lessons with Charlie Lewis at Berklee, and getting introduced to Herbert L. Clark's original recordings. And that was really, really amazing. And I remember,
This is from like a century ago, right?
yeah, his recording career was short. It his discography, you can't even really, I guess, call it a discography, but his recording career lasted from roughly 1909 to 1922. Before that, he did record, but he recorded with other bands like the John Philip Sousa Band, and other bands like that for different labels. But
Very
his
cool.
recording, yeah. So I got introduced to his recordings, and I remember in I think it was like 2013, I got asked to perform for the Boston Landmarks Orchestra Gala, and I needed a piece that was going to be like 3 minutes long, and I wasn't really sure what to do. And I was like, because most of the 20th century stuff I knew was pretty long, and Baroque repertoire is also not always short either. So I didn't really know what to do. So I consulted these recordings for a little while, and found this piece called The Southern Cross. And it should be noted for everybody listening that these recordings, even though they are 3 to 4 minutes in length at the most, because that's what the technology allowed for, the pieces were actually longer. These were condensed versions of the pieces, and I wasn't aware of that for all of them back in those days when I first started getting really, really heavy into the historic cornet stuff. So I picked this piece, and I got a friend, fellow student at Berklee, to play with me, and I realized how much better that made me as a musician. And I played it on trumpet. I didn't have a historic cornet at that time, but I realized how much better that made me as a musician. And so I started learning these Herbert L. Clark recordings, just one after the other, after the other, after the other, after I performed that gala. And I made up my mind that eventually I would have a historic cornet, and I would want to, in addition to learning Baroque trumpet, I wanted to be able to play cornet really well, and
Mhm.
and be familiar and an expert at the cornet literature. And so, um,
And I know you are that. I have a whole bunch of things
yeah, for
I want
sure.
to also mention in the podcast. But first up,
Yeah.
you should mention the there's this tune that we collaborated on. Going back up a half step to the modern pitch for a bit. We have this tune that we collaborated on. It's from the Pearcy Gratzmiller Jazz Quintet's 2018 debut album, Over the Edge, and I'm actually on piano on this one. Um, so this piece we really want to share with everybody, is called Beantown Bap. So how about you tell me a little bit about what that's about?
Well, it is a bop tune, and I guess it was a thing that I got inspired to write while I was a student at Berklee, and I just thought it would be cool to, you know, I guess dedicate something to Boston. And actually, it was funny because the it is spelled BAHP. On the bop is spelled BAHP, so Beantown Bap, like how they'd say it in Boston. But the funny thing is uh, I didn't even spell it that way on purpose. That was Aaron who did that. He thought I was intentionally trying to make a joke about Boston by calling it Beantown Bap, and I was like, no, Aaron, that wasn't what I was thinking, but that's absolutely hilarious, and we're keeping it. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, we should keep it. And so that's how that spelling came into be. So if you guys look at the album on Apple Music or Spotify, whichever you guys prefer, then you'll see the lettering, the spelling there.
Yep.
But it was just cool, and it was kind of an experiment for me to do some like basic jazz counterpoint. I haven't obviously taken a jazz counterpoint class or anything like that, but I wanted to try my hand at it, and so that was fun. In the B section,
And
there's
it
some
sounds very
counterpoint
good.
between the
Yeah.
yeah. There's some counterpoint between the trumpet and the sax in the B section of that tune.
I should clarify it's Aaron Gratzmiller on the tenor sax on this one, right?
Yes, yep,
Yes.
yep.
So let's play it. Let's play it. Very exciting. That was Beantown Bap from the Pearcy Gratzmiller Jazz Quintet with Wayne Pearcy on trumpet, Aaron Gratzmiller on tenor sax, and actually myself on piano, Matt Savage. So we have Wayne Pearcy here right now, and I wanted to ask: do you have an upcoming project in mind? Is it either more on the classical or the jazz side?
Well, I do. I do have a project that I'm toying around with. I'm actually going to go check out a recording studio tomorrow. I'm going to head over to Roslindale and check out a recording studio called Futura. Yeah, I want to put out a jazz album very soon because I'm applying to a grad school. Florida State University has a really amazing jazz department, and I'm thinking about doing a master's in jazz studies there. Probably, if I go to school at Florida State, I'll also do a classical degree as well, just because I can play both styles, and why the hell not, right? So, so I'll do both. I got to make Winton proud. So
Wynton
yeah,
Marsalis, one of our idols.
yeah, that's right. That's right. If Winton can play both, then all of us can play both. So yeah, so I really want to put out a quintet album, but I don't want it to be. I don't know. I don't want it to be all quintet stuff. I want to maybe do one tune as a sextet, maybe one tune as like a quartet. We'll see. We'll see how it all shapes up. But I am going to go check out a recording, Futura recording studio tomorrow, and I'm really excited to get to bring my horn over there and feel out the room and all that fun stuff. It should be really cool.
Oh, it should be. I know it's a very nice room if you end up going with that one, and there are so many great new tunes of yours too.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah.
Now, I also wanted to ask, how do you currently work as an advocate for assistive technology for those with disabilities, especially the blind?
Well, I worked at Berklee in a program that I helped to start that taught music technology and Braille music, and I worked there until let's see, starting in 2011 until 2018, and that was fun. I got to mentor a lot of students. In not only using the technology to help get their stuff done in classroom assignments and homework and things like that, projects, etc. But I also did a lot of work with them on self advocacy skills and what to do if their teacher was unsure about how to deal with blindness or that sort of thing. So I've got a lot of experience with that. Since leaving Berklee, I haven't been quite as active in that space, but I did. I need to get back to this, but I did start a club on this social networking app called Clubhouse, and I had a blind musicians club there, and I did get some people in there who were who would share their experiences going to music school, things like that, what kinds of things they struggled with. I had another student who I met as a result of my time at Berklee. She's another classical trumpet player, and I mentored her all through her undergrad at a classical uh, school in Florida. So not Florida State, another school. Uh, but I mentored her and helped her learn how to ask for accommodations, that sort of thing. Learn how to tell her trumpet teacher what she needed, that sort of thing. So that was a rewarding experience for both of us. I've played corporate events for this group called Partners for Youth with Disabilities that helps students of all levels, achieve independence and self-reliance and obtain work, in the workforce, like doing whatever it is they've wanted to do. And so that kind of brings me up to the present.
Very nice. Yeah, we've still had some work, even in these last tough couple of years.
Yeah, it has been tough. It has been very tough.
But you have a lot of new tunes out, and one of them, which we're going to play for you as well, is called "The Explorer." So, I'm really curious. How did your tune, "The Explorer," sorry, "The Explorer," get its name?
I wrote this tune. It's dedicated to a assistive technology company for blind and visually impaired people called IRA. And what IRA does is very cool. They connect you through an app on your smartphone. They connect you to professionally trained agents who can help you do any number of things. They can help read mail for you. They can help look up cooking directions on a package if you can't see it. They can help you set your oven to the right temperature if you need help with that, set your thermostat, but help you with computer troubles, format resumes for job seeking, all kinds of cool things like that. But they also can help you navigate. So if you are learning a new area, or if you're wanting to explore a new place that you haven't been to before, you can call IRA and you can give them the address of the place that you're going to, and they will help you navigate to your destination. So this piece is called the Explorer because that's what they call their users, is explorers, because their motto is you're exploring your independence with the help of these trained agents, and through augmented reality you can, together with those professionally trained agents, accomplish new things that you might not have otherwise done on your own, maybe. So the tune takes you through a lot of interesting textures, different landscapes. So it starts out. Um, oh, let me back up and say that uh, it was based on. I wrote it based on the ringtone of the IRA app. Whenever you call an agent, you hear a ringtone, and the notes are D, G, A, and B, and so I used that motive throughout the piece, and so it starts out, presenting the theme in kind of a fast swing feel, and then it goes that represents you getting connected with your agent, getting the address plugged in into your app, into their GPS, that sort of thing. And then there's a slower section that's in 3, and that illustrates you walking along and getting into a groove with your agent. They're telling you about things that you might be passing on your left and your right, maybe new businesses that you've never explored before, or maybe telling you when to, go around a tree or something that might be in your way, or when there's a crowd of people coming up, all kinds of things like that. After that slow section in 3, there's another section in 4 that it's kind of a recap of the original theme, and that represents, we took a wrong turn, Google misguided us, and so we've got to regroup and go back the other way. And so there's that section, and then it finishes up with a second line section that was inspired by Wynton Marsalis's Big Fat Hen from the Magic Hour. Actually, this whole tune was inspired by the album The Magic Hour. If you guys ever have a chance to check that album out, especially the last track, The Magic Hour, the title track, and then Big Fat Hen, those two specifically, those were a deep inspiration for this tune. So the second line section represents, you got to your destination, you are at your your destination, you feel a sense of empowerment and fulfillment and gratification, knowing that you did something that you might not have done before, and you feel a sense of empowerment, and you just feel more complete in a way. And so I wanted to write a tune highlighting all of those points. And everybody that works at IRA loves it. A lot of the agents have actually listened to it. I think the video has like over the YouTube video has over 350 views at this point. It's really it really took off, and people really have enjoyed it. I've gotten to perform this a couple times, and I can't wait to perform it again. And for sure, I will probably be recording that tune on this upcoming album if I can get it off the ground.
Very nice. Yeah. So the excerpt we're going to play from The Explorer is we're going to start with the Return to the Swing section, and then go into the New Orleans style second line section. So we hope you enjoy this. All right, everybody. That was a tune by my good friend, trumpeter and cornetist and Baroque trumpeter, Wayne Pearcy. And this is one of his jazz originals called The Explorer. So it's really cool. So we hope you enjoyed that one. And so we're just about to finish off for the day, but I did want to ask Wayne one more question. What do you want to tell any blind students who are interested in learning the trumpet or instruments in general?
Well, I guess what I would say is it's a tough road. If you've got innate ability, and you really want to do it, do it. There's nothing that should hold you back, even if there are some pitfalls along the way, and even if you'll have to educate those around you about how you want to do things. it's worth it because we play music because we love music. And it doesn't matter whether you're blind or sighted or anything. You play music. We play music because we love it, and we live for the music, and that's the important thing. So, if you're a blind student out there listening to this podcast, and you want to learn an instrument, go for it. If you're a blind student who's already started learning an instrument, and you feel some discouragement, or you're having some obstacles in your way, um, just do your best and get through it. Reach out to those in the community. There are some of us who have probably had the same experiences that you have. Um, I'm certainly willing to help anyone that I can get through these types of situations and conversations. So feel free to contact me, and I can help in any way possible.
Definitely, yeah. Wayne Pearcy certainly has a lot of great knowledge about not just our great musical traditions, but just why we do what we do, despite even though some of our gigs might be brutal and our recording projects ambitious. It's always amazing to be a part of the end product. It really is.
Yeah, definitely.
So, thank you again for being the podcast's second interviewee, and don't forget to check out the Piercy Gratz-Miller Jazz Quintet's album "Over the Edge," and plus whatever new projects the Piercy has in mind.
Absolutely. And is it okay, Matt, if I give my website a plug here?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. If you guys want to get in contact with me, you can contact me using the contact form on my website. My website is waynepearcy.com. That's WaynePearcy.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't always check my socials as much as I should. So if you really want to get a hold of me on those platforms, it might be best to send me a direct message, but I'll definitely respond. And when I get my act together, I'll be back on Clubhouse again too. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
Perfect.
And thank you again, and have
Able Voices is a production of the Berklee Institute for Arts Education and Special Needs, led by me, Dr. Rhoda Bernard, the founding managing director. It is produced by Daniel Martinez del Campo. The introduction music is by Kai Levin, and our closing song is by Sebastian Batista. Kai and Sebastian are students in the arts education programs at the Berklee Institute for Arts Education and Special Needs. If you would like to learn more about our work, you can find us online at berklee.edu/BIAESN, or email us at BIAESN@berklee, that's LEE.edu.